that's why I'm grateful I started out in theater, because when I started doing shit in front of the camera, excuse my language, beg your pardon, but when I started doing stuff in front of the camera, I really missed that live filter, you know, because I'd been doing so much theater beforehand, and when you're doing theater, you know whether whether a line lands or not. You know in real time they laugh or they don't. You know, and then so when I started doing stuff in front of the camera, I was a bit like John Gielgud. You know, no, I'm nowhere near John.
No, I know what you mean,
but,
though.
You know, the example I'm talking about is when John Gielgud first started acting in front of the camera, he had a bit of a job adjusting.
Sure.
Even though he was a theater legend, you know.
Totally. Well, also.
And so every different medium involves and requires different skills, and when you're lucky enough to learn a few of them, like you know, when you were doing in front of the camera and stuff, and a prolific voice actor, that it really educates you as an actor, doesn't? Would you not agree, sir?
I 100% agree, because all of a sudden you realize that, like you mentioned, John Gielgud, his job at you know, the Royal Shakespeare Company.
When I'm talking about Arthur, one of the went with Dudley Moore.
Oh, right.
That was that was one of the biggest examples.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you see, you know, if your job, all of them, Olivier, Gielgud, all of them, Alec Guinness, the whole deal is if you're eating and you're fed by the soul and literally by what you eat, by going, now is the winter of our discontent made glorious spring. And you've got a big audience, but then all of a sudden you're hired, and you have a camera,
and you got to totally pull it in,
right?
And they did it. Well, Gielgud struggled, but Alec Guinness did it. Olivier did it.
Right, but then you have a camera right here, and then you see.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Isn't that great? And you have the same guy who would have said to be or not to be in a big way, and now you have the guy saying, I should alert the media, you know, or when in Arthur, when John Gielgud, when he meets Liza Minnelli, and she says, I'm so excited to meet you. What was his name, the butler in Arthur? When Gielgud played.
Yeah. What was his name? That's a good question. I just think it's John Gielgud.
Hopkins, or I don't know. Anyway, he says.
Yeah. What was his name?
Yeah.
You're right.
But he says. When he meets Liza Minnelli, she says, "Oh, it's such a pleasure to meet you." And talk about a beautiful, dry performance that's this big, because the camera's right here. He says, "How fortunate for how fortunate for Arthur. One would have thought to meet you in a bowling alley," and then moves on to the next one.
Yes.
Genius.
By that point, I think Gielgud had started to get it.
Yes.
But if you watch his stuff before then on camera, he didn't know what.
No, and he said.
If I dare say it, he seemed uncomfortable.
And he admitted as much. And. But
you
called Alec Guinness.
So many different.
It's crazy. If you see Guinness in Bridge on the River Kwai, he was amazing.
Oh.
And he already had that down long before Star Wars. Right?
What?
He was a moving
What
picture.
have I done? Yeah. When he realizes what have I done?
Oh, you young folks out there, go watch Bridge on the River Kwai. It'll blow your Jack
go
Hawkins.
Watch Alec Guinness's work.
Oh, Alec, it's beautiful. So anyway, you can tell you got.
What about Great Expectations?
Oh.
What about Great Expectations?
Don't even get me started.
No, if I can say one thing,
please.
If I can say one thing, Great Expectations is the best black and white film I've ever seen.
Pretty damn fun.
The way that they employ the lighting for black and white.
Right. No.
David Lean. David Lean who went on to
Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia.
The English Patient. Forget it.
Yeah. So
David
you know
Lean,
it. So Great Expectations is the best demonstration of black and white film that I have ever personally seen.
Well, when we're talking about
you gotta check it out.
How actors grow into their skill and their talent, and they never cease to learn, the good ones. I recall the last really big interview that Paul Newman gave just after he won the Oscar for Road to Perdition.
All right, it's funny you should say this because I have a story about John Gielgud working with Peter Brook. But okay, good, carry on.
So I read this article, and this was just after he passed away, and in the article, he says, "Yeah, I'm of course very excited about Road to Perdition, and it was every frame of that movie looked like a painting." But his response was to the interviewer, I have to tell you, thank you very much for your kind words, but I don't think I really started to get it till I was 70. When I turned 70, I think I started to really click, and that's why I think I did really well at Road to Perdition, because I started to kind of figure this out. And he died about 82. But to hear that from a guy like Paul Newman gives me and you, like, oh my God, I've got so much to learn, and I want to.
And Anthony Hopkins getting an autism diagnosis at 75.
Right. The first movie I saw.
The fact that there is still self-discovery available to us.
Well,
informed self-discovery the fact that we can still learn.
Yeah. Isn't that glorious? I love that, and that's what all the audience.
That's the reason. That's the reason why we should never relent growing old.
Never,
because there's still so much to learn.
Oh,
man.
there is.
It doesn't matter, man.
These sweet kids outside the door here at Esports Arena. These kids are maybe a third of my age, maybe younger. They are so smart, and they are so.
If they were a third of your age, they wouldn't be kids, sir. No offense.
Well, whatever they are. They're way younger than you and me, and they are so kind, so helpful, and they know so much, and they're informing me, and my part in this is being like a giant freaking sponge in a goofball shirt. I want to learn.
Yes, sir.
I get so much better knowing that there's so much to learn.
You are good. You are good enough.
Well, thank you. And you know who else knows that?
But it's true. It's clear that you learn too, though.
Well,
it's clear that you learn too. But you know who really gets that as more than any of us is the freaking king of Hollywood. The reason that Tress MacNeille, Jess Harnell, Rob Paulsen, and Maurice LaMarche are back doing Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain is because Steven Spielberg said, okay, we're going to do this, but it's not about movie stars. It's about the authenticity of the characters that connects with the audience. So if we do it, we're doing it with these journeyman actors, not movie stars. Yes.
And that is
it would have been impossible.
Right.
How else would they? No, there's no other way they could have.
The king of Hollywood at 74 years old is still saying, "Oh yeah, okay, if we're going to do this, I know how to do this." Rob, are you guys in? Yeah. Yes, sir. Great. Who's going to pony up the dough? And it works. And I love that.
I was watching and I was learning. So
oh, thanks, buddy. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for taking your time with me. Thank you, Esports, Connie, all you lovely people. Frank, oh my God, Steph, you guys are just way too talented for one outfit.